Long-time YouTubers know a trick. That is, if you have an audience and are short on ideas, ask them for some ideas and just make the videos that they've done most of the work on for you already. On that note, it's time to dive back into the original Fiend Folio again. Fiend Folio was the second major monster compendium for AD&D, but it wasn't just a TSR brainchild, it was a love letter to fans. Many of its denizens, including the Thork of today's video, were birthed in the Fiend Factory, a column of the UK's White Dwarf magazine, where players and writers like Mark Bryant submitted their wildest ideas. The result? A book brimming with oddities and a metallic swamp bird that's equal parts bizarre and brilliant. The Thork's roots in this collaborative chaos explain its eccentric charm. Unlike TSR's internally crafted icons like the Beholder, the Fiend Folio creatures often feel like fever dreams, unpolished, unique and occasionally divisive. But with its copper feathers and boiling water breath, the Thork embodies this strange legacy, a quirky relic of a time when D&D's monster design was as much about imagination as balance. Balance. I swear, I've never heard that word until the late 1990s. It's really a myth, game balance. I'm currently creating a heap of monsters for the Shadowdark RPG. Balance is not much of a factor, but style certainly is. So grab yourself a tasty beverage. It's time to get deeply nerdy and more than a little hot and swampy. Picture a 9-foot tall stork wading through a misty swamp, its plumage gleaming with the dull sheen of copper. This was the Thork as Mark Barnes envisioned it in the AD&D First Edition, a towering avian grounded by its own metallic weight. Its long legs and slow swimming made it a creature of patience, stalking the murky waters for its prey. Sounds weird, but it's actually derived right out of ancient Greek mythology, or cryptozoology really. From the swamps of Symphalia region, there dwelled a species of voracious, man-eating birds with beaks of bronze, sharp metallic feathers they could launch at their victims, and of course, poisonous dung. What is it with these ancient folks and poison poop? I mean, hippopotamus, sure, but deadly bird guano? It's not exactly normal. These birds were pets of Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and had been brought up by Ares, the god of war. They migrated to a marsh in Arcadia to escape a pack of wolves. There they bred quickly and swarmed over the countryside, destroying crops, fruit trees, and townspeople. Then along came Heracles, and in his sixth labour for Eurystheus, was tasked with dealing with these deadly cranes, about the size of an ibis but with a more powerful straight beak made of metal. Hercules couldn't venture into the swamp as he was too massive and just sunk into the marsh, so Athena gave him a rattle made by Hephaestus the smith, similar to castanets. He rattled them super loud at a spot overlooking the whole marsh, causing the birds to freak out, fly up into the air, where Heracles shot them with the Hydra blood-dipped arrows. Those that did escape never returned. They ended up in an island visited by Jason and the Argonauts, the island of Areteus. Areteus? I don't know. There may have been some editing of the original myths, and those cranes may have originally been women who didn't give the proper hospitality to Heracles, which he then killed. Hence the statues of ladies with crane feet behind the Temple of Artemis in that swamp region. But, times were different in ancient Greece, I guess. Anyway, fantasy monster, the Thork. The Thork never soared to the heights of D&D's A-list monsters, not just because its feathers are made of copper, making it way too heavy to fly or swim, now that I think about it, but they can swim, so I guess they just do so underwater? While the Mind Flayer and Displacer Beast became legends, the copper stork lingered in obscurity, often relegated to the silliest monster lists, alongside the Flump or the wolf in sheep's clothing. Its flightless form and hot water gimmick baffled some, yet endeared it to others who saw beauty in its strangeness. For fans of D&D's weirder side, the Thork is a cult classic, a reminder of an era when monsters didn't need to be epic to be memorable, and while not mentioned in the Fiend Folio lore, it is a legit creature from Greek myth and legend, so absolutely it deserves to be in the game. Unlike many Fiend Folio alumni, the Thork never received an official update from TSR or Wizards of the Coast, and as D&D evolved through 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th editions, it remained frozen in 1981, a snapshot of AD&D's quirky past. Its survival hinges on the passion of fans who refuse to let the swamp bird fade into the mire. Okay, got to cut back on those puns, I do apologise. It's a crazy critter, but easily as much fun as a gorgon or a catoplebis. The copper feathers mean it's not going to fly anywhere, however, they do make it one tough bird. The reliance on specific habitat to get enough copper to grow raw copper feathers is mind-boggling, so it's certainly a monstrous supernatural creature with its origins in magic or the elemental planes. Its mythology clearly points towards this being a divine pet, so where the gods associated with them go, so do the Thorks. At first, it's controlled and in lovely habitats for the gods to enjoy, and then, some turn up in your swamp one day and get up to no good. Metal stalks making trouble in the neighborhood. Sorry, had to say it. So, the Thork's physiology is crazy. It's essentially a 9-foot tall walking water heater with a wicked metal beak that can vomit scalding hot water, and in some accounts, and I see absolutely no reason not to include this, they can also fire some viciously toxic guano out their backsides, which you would expect from a creature of metal and fire. It's probably loaded with cyanide and arsenic. It's a biologist in me saying. Talking of chemicals, the only treasure the Thork is known to collect is platinum coins, and I would imagine platinum metal in any shape, so more like art objects than arms and armor, so people don't tend to make those out of platinum. Thorks don't collect other shiny objects, so it's more likely that the platinum metal has some sort of a chemical effect they require. Perhaps it's required for their ability to digest copper. We don't know for sure. It could be that the platinum is what allowed some Thorks to convert their guano to poison and spray it at their enemies, and never where they also eat. They don't seem to have any special uses for the metal otherwise, and store their bits of metal concealed under a boulder or wedged into the crack of a rock facing the water's edge. Remind me to tell you about Karatur immortality elixirs and the dangers of alchemists inhaling too many mercury fumes. The lack of further inclusion in official monster books hasn't stopped the Thork from spreading its wings, figuratively and in some cases literally. Fans' conversions breathe life into this metallic menace, adapting it for modern systems with creative twists. In the GURPS system, the Thork remains a 9-foot tall swamp bird with copper plumage and boiling spit, but now includes a metal horn dealing impaling damage. So now we're thinking about charge attacks and ramming tactics, adding a fresh layer to its combat style. These adaptations show how fans keep cool concepts and a bit of mythology alive and kicking in diverse game systems. It's not all about Dungeons & Dragons. Never has been. For Dungeon Masters, the Thork offers a versatile oddball. Imagine a swamp village where locals raise Thorks in pens, harvesting copper feathers for trade with dodging scalding sprays, and players might be hired to hunt a rogue flock terrorizing fishermen, only to discover a magical predator like a flame-resistant troll driving them mad. Or perhaps the Thorks have a diet of nothing but copper-blooded fish that hold a secret. Their copper contamination is due to feeding around a massive artifact buried in the bog, sparking a treasure hunt laced with steam, stench, and death. The Thork is a good example of a creature that could have been another quirky but popular monster like the land shark or the reverse goblin. In 1991, the Fiend Folio was a product of a freer and weirder time in fantasy. Sure, not all of the quirky old monsters from mythology have to be all amazing, and there are some truly oddball monsters in the Fiend Folio. A great big burnish swamp bird with a beak like a machete, acidic and toxic shit, scalding hot water vomit, and feathers made of actual copper metal is a fun encounter. And you just know some patron of the adventure party is going to demand delivery of a fertile egg from one of these birds, since it will fetch a fortune in the markets of Kalamashan or Halrua. Thorks don't tend to breed often. When they do, it's when they first arrive at a new habitat, where they seem to just know how many offspring the area's prey will support. They're not smart birds, but they remember faces, and they are territorial, not sharing the same stretch of swamp or shore they call their own. They migrate if it snows, preferring hot springs and pools near where dragons have died, and they live for up to 30 years. And that's about all you need to know about the Thork. My name is AJ Pickett, your dire hobbit sage of imaginary things. Thanks for listening. Be sure to pick up a deeply nerdy mug to enjoy your tasty beverages. Consider Fourthwall or Patreon support for exclusive content each month, and to keep my cat fed. Thanks for listening. Sorry I haven't been around the start of this month. I've been working on artwork and stuff for the Super Atomic RPG that's going to be finished fairly soon and will be coming to a Kickstarter near you. Thanks for listening. As always, I'll be back with more for you very soon.